Hi, today I'm here with Eric Tellen. Eric is the co-founder and CEO of Onzo, and he's an expert in B2B2C, which is a really interesting topic for most marketers. Usually, platforms are really tricky to market because most of the value comes from having all the member within the platform. In B2B2C, it's even more complicated because on one side you have businesses that you need to sell to, and then on the other side you have consumers, and the consumers won't want to join your platform if you do not have the businesses, but businesses um, will have a hard time paying for your product if you don't have consumers. So it's a tricky problem to solve, and Eric has done this successfully not once but twice. So I'm really, really excited to have you here today, Eric.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I think, you hit the nail on the head with the crux of the issue for, any marketplace or B2B2C business or technology is it's that chicken or the egg question. Who do you go after first? If you are a fledgling startup and you have limited resources, are you going to go after the supplier side and try to build that first, knowing that you have no equity in the bank in terms of consumers? Or are you going to go on the consumer side and try to build a consumer set, a wait list, so to speak, so that you can entice the suppliers in? So that is the major question. And the answer is there is no wrong answer to that. There are businesses all across the world that have done both successfully. And in our experience, the last two companies that, one that I work for and one that I founded, we addressed the supplier side first as our tactic. And I think, you know, if you go the supplier side first, it becomes a sales tactic first that leads into marketing. And if you go the consumer side first, it's a marketing first approach that leads into sales. Um, so I think probably what would be helpful to you and your followers is just to give a brief background on my history.
Absolutely.
So I was an early stage employee of a company called Experience. It was a mobile ticketing based company here in Atlanta. So we worked with Ticketmaster, Live Nation, the NFL, MLB, NCAA sports to essentially inject new mobile ticketing technologies into the things that they were doing. So it's seat upgrades, subscription access to tickets, that type of stuff. So if you think about the sports landscape, very niche. There's only 300 players in the entire space, so the total addressable market is actually pretty small, and there's a lot of who you get is almost as important as how many of you get up front. So that was really important for us and our success with Experience was if you go get the Charlotte Bobcats, that's great. They're a great franchise, but if you go get the Boston Celtics or you go get the LA Lakers, that's going to make all the difference in the world because in every industry there are leaders and there are followers, and a common objection you're going to get is, well, who else is doing this, right? So they want to see that the market leaders in your space are on board. So that's the hard part is you got to get the upper echelon of who you're trying to sell to on board.
Yeah. So I think in theory that's great. I think a question that everybody is going to have is, okay, so how do you go and get the LA Lakers when you don't have really a strong, you know, um, consumer base, and you don't have a lot of consumers either?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing is you have to be solving a problem. There's got to be a visceral pain point that they have that you can solve a problem for that they don't have a current solution for. So, the industry jargon for that would be product market fit. So you have to be solving a compelling problem that they have on their side that they're going to buy in. And in terms of tactics, it's block and tackle. It is hustle and getting in front of people, meeting them in person, and then ultimately just having someone place a bet on you. I mean, that's really you have to sell them, but ultimately someone's got to buy in and be your first kind of beta partner. And you're going to give away the farm. I mean, that's, part of it is that
Mm-hmm.
you're going to let them use the platform for free. You're going to lock them in for life. I mean, your first partner is critical to your success because they're going to give you the feedback that you need to build a product in a meaningful way. And they're going to be your case study moving forward. So, as you try to sell the second, third, fourth, fifth partner, they're all going to go back to your first partner and say, how's it working? And to be perfectly honest, your first product is going to be bad. It's going to be terrible. And they're going to have to suffer through the bumps and bruises of working with you. And if you think about, technology or startups in general, the demand curve, the growth curve, only 2.5% of the population are true early adopters or innovators that are willing to jump in on a bleeding edge product. So then you've got your early adopters, then you've got your early majority. They all want to see case studies and logos, but that 2.5% is who you have to target because they're willing to jump in. They always want to be first. So, who you're targeting is really important because, there are some teams, especially in the sports industry that we were in, there are some teams that are always first. They always want to be first. So you kind of know who they are. And there are some teams that are always going to be last, right? And they're that late majority that you'd be spinning a lot of your wheels trying to get them on board. And then the second business that I actually founded myself with two other guys from experience is called Osner. And we are a craft beer marketplace. So we have a native app that's a marketplace that connects breweries directly with consumers for direct consumer sales. So we do pre-sales for these high demand releases that they do. We do memberships and bottle societies, and that is a company that we started in 2017 and bootstrapped that from the ground up. And actually, we were just recently acquired this August by NextClass. So now we have a little more resources to be able to plug into the business and grow. And again, with Osner, we chose the route of we're going to go after the suppliers first because the great thing about Osner was we started the company with $1,000, and so we just if you have a lack of resources, that breeds necessity, which breeds creativity in the sense that if you don't have any money, you've got to be pretty scrappy and creative with how you bring your partners on board. So really for us, our kind of launch strategy was we're based here in Atlanta. We're just going to focus on Atlanta first. So if we can kind of foster the community in Atlanta, then and get them on board and stay close to the product, stay close to our consumer, and keep a tight feedback loop, we can then build the product because the product needs to get to a certain level before we try to expand outside of our own market. But yeah, I mean, I've got kind of the three things that stuck out to me when you had kind of initially reached out about B2B to C. And this will obviously predominantly focus on starting with the supplier side first. And I've kind of already touched on a few of these things, but the first idea is what I call, the pyramid of inventory. So, when I talked about getting the Celtics or the Lakers first, or, within Atlanta, it was Monday night and 3 taverns in our market. That's important because, one, if you get the right partners first, that consumer side will follow, right? If it's a high demand brewery or a high demand sports team, they have a big following. When they launch something and they're committed to you and they start promoting it, their consumers effectively become your consumers. So when we launched with Monday night, we had our first couple hundred consumers come into our product. That was a really exciting time. And what that gives you leverage for is going to the other consumers in your or the other suppliers in your market and say, well, now we've got 250 consumers on the platform and one case study. Had we done that with a lower tiered brand, maybe you only get 10 consumers in the platform, and then your proposition isn't as compelling. So it really matters that you get those industry leaders, those innovators in the space that other people aspire to be first. And then what you'll start to see kind of leads into my next point is what we call the hub and spoke model. So again, we're a marketplace. So geography matters for us. And so as we continued to build out Atlanta, we got our first partner. I think we now have probably 25 or 30 different partners within Atlanta. You hit a point of saturation. And so then you say, okay, what's the next market? And where I think a lot of businesses fail is they set their sights too far. So they're like, okay, great, we've launched Atlanta. Let's go launch, 5 to 10 new cities. For us, it was very calculated. We said, okay, for us, it was actually Charlotte because it was within driving distance and we didn't have the money to fly. But let's go to Charlotte. Let's put boots on the ground. Let's get the best brewery in Charlotte and build out that market. So in the hub and spoke model, you'd be very focused on who your next market is, where your next kind of geographic region is. And once you kind of sign that first marquee partner, double down and put all of your resources into building out that market, because you're always going to have more success. If we have 15 partners in one market versus 15 partners across the nation, the impact for your marketplace or your B2B to C business is going to be that much better because you have that saturation. And then the last piece is really just talking about, what I talked about earlier is when you go the route of suppliers, it is sales first. And in the startup world, they kind of have this mantra of do things that don't scale, right? So from your first partner to your 10th, when you get to your 10th partner, that is essentially what people qualify as having product market fit. People see enough value in your product to pay you for it, and there's something there, right? And then when you go from 10 to 50, now you're trying to figure out what's your business model, how are you going to charge for pricing, and then once you get from 50, to 250, you're starting to think about scale. So up front, it is sales, it's relationships, it's doing things that don't scale, like handling all their support, going above and beyond to create marketing materials for them to give to their consumers to help them better implement the technology. And then as you start to grow, there's going to be a tipping point where sales is going to convert more into marketing. So up front, no one knows who Osner is. We have no brand equity. We're trying to build that over time. But once you get to 250 partners, 100 partners, you start to become more of a household name. So your marketing doesn't fall on deaf ears. If I email someone and say, hey, you should check out Osner, and they have no idea who we are, they're never going to open that email. They're never going to respond to us. But if they've seen us in the space, if they know that we're in their market already, working with somebody that they respect, that's certainly going to open the door for us. So realizing that upfront, it is sales, it's hard work. It's trying to get your partner count up to a point where people recognize you, and then it's flipping it to driving people to your website, having a demo link in there so that people can kind of enter the top of your funnel, and then building out your sales team to do online demos and getting people set up in a more systematic manner.
Right. All right. Great. Well, you make it sound easy, which is not.
No. Exactly.
But I think it was really, really good practical advice. And thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure.